Bolivia's president has declared a state of emergency following anti-government roadblocks that have been paralyzing the nation for weeks. Rodrigo Paz addressed the country on television to announce the emergency and warned protesters they would face the full force of the law. The 90-day emergency limits the right to protest and allows Bolivia's military to be deployed. The protesters want Paz, who is Bolivia's first center-right president in decades, to end liberal economic reforms and resign. To unpack what's happening in Bolivia, I'm happy to welcome Eduardo Gamarra, professor of political science at Florida International University. Professor, appreciate your making the time. The protesters' demands have expanded from economic issues into other political grievances and now include the president's resignation. Is this a singular moment, one economic revolt that became political, or something bigger that's been building for years?
It's a combination. I mean, on the one hand, Bolivia is facing one of the most profound economic crises in the last several decades. And so some of the grievances are legitimate. But there are some, I would say, triggers that over the last 6 months have largely pitted the new government. It was just sworn in November against, in fact, the very same people that elected him. He took some very strong measures, lifted, for example, subsidies on hydrocarbons, then had a bad luck in importing hydrocarbons, gasoline in particular, that was contaminated, and it damaged several vehicles and engines and so on. But the grievances, the economic grievances, are one thing. There's a deeper grievance there, which is largely political, and it's largely tied to former President Evo Morales, who largely is the one who orchestrated that singular demand for the resignation of President Paz, who, as I noted, was elected last year with over 50% of the vote, and who's only been in power for a little bit over 6 months.
So let's go a little deeper into that, if we might. How much of this is about reinstalling the political vision of that former leftist president?
Well, there are several Bolivian analysts who argue that that is the objective, right? Evo Morales, in particular, is prohibited from running for office. He's already been president 3 times, so he can't legally run for re-election. But he's trying to force an election. In fact, one of his demands is for the president to resign and for elections to be held in 90 days. But the underlying demand is for him to be the candidate, right? And so sort of going back to those 20 years during which his party, the Movement Toward Socialism, governed the country. But there's another dimension to this, and this is where it gets pretty complicated, because Evo Morales is holed up in a central region of Bolivia where 94% of Bolivian coca leaf is produced. And now Bolivia has become a very significant producer of cocaine. And Bolivia, in large measure, become a hub for drug trafficking in South America. And so a lot of the accusations against Evo Morales is that it's not just about reinstalling his vision of Bolivia, but that much of this is to protect himself against the possibility of being extradited to the United States and other charges, including, accusations of pedophilia. So
the government clearly wants to restore some sense of order here. Does the state of emergency, however, risk deepening the conflict?
Well, this is the 50th day of blockades, and in particular, the cities of La Paz and Cochabamba were entirely surrounded, and there was already no medicine, no food, and no gasoline coming in. And so many Bolivians were really saying, when is the president going to end this? And the president opted to negotiate, and he negotiated and he negotiated, and finally achieved one agreement last night, for example, with the Bolivian Labor Central, and immediately thereafter declared the state of emergency. It's a very focalized state of emergency, and the idea is to try to reopen the cities of La Paz and Cochabamba. But they went from about 90 blockades to 17 blockades today. So it's having an impact. The question is, and this is a risk because historically in Bolivia, states of siege have not only ended with violence, but have resulted in the resignation of presidents. So we'll see how this plays out. But at least 10 hours in, 12 hours in, it looks like the president has played his cards right.
Okay, that's Professor Eduardo Gamarra. Many, many thanks to you, sir.
Thank you.